To the left, we have the Samsung S95B 65-inch rocking firmware 1420.9. To the right, we have the Samsung S95B 55-inch rocking 1082. 1082 is the day one firmware, and I'm going to let you guys know comparatively to this day one firmware what the latest update has done. Now, I'll just kind of summarize it for you. In short, 1082 to the right has better brightness. So that is one of the things you'll see, particularly on small highlights. So pretty much anytime there's anything in the background in a movie, whether it's like embers from an explosion, or it's a stoplight in the background, or an overhead light in an office in a really dramatic interview type scene, it is always going to be brighter on firmware 1082. That's just how it's working out so far. I don't know if they've dimmed it down for the sake of, as people say, not having a heatsink or whatever the case may be, burn-in scares or whatever. I will continue to regularly do burn-in tests on firmware 1082. We'll probably do one towards the end of this week. I mean, I say that as we're in Thursday, so I'll probably do it like maybe tomorrow or whatever. And then, of course, comparatively to the one that has the dimming down and see if one gets burn-in faster than the other. I think that'll be an interesting dynamic for everybody to see unfold. Okay, so let's just get into what I saw after the brightness thing. So we already know about the highlights, right? The highlights, not the best. But I want to play the scene particularly. I'm going to lower this down so we don't get hit with any copyright bullshit, right? Okay, and now what we're going to do, I'm going to make sure that both are lowered. We're going to show you this particular scene because brightness is not the only thing that you lost. You lost motion. Try to slow this down in YouTube and you'll see weird digitization on the right with Aloy's movements as she hops in the boat, as she's moving the row. All of it is less smooth on the Samsung S95B rocking the latest firmware than it is rocking 1082. And it's so bad that I almost thought I had something set up wrong, like maybe I didn't have motion processing on. Motion processing is literally maxed out. And I have this odd digitization. And this, for me, is a massive, massive blow to where they were. And I feel like this is what happens when they listen to like the Vincentios of the world telling them, we don't like soap opera effect, turn that feature off, lessen the hyper-realistic look. Now you've got yourself to a point where you've destroyed the TV, right? Because what you've effectively done is you took motion that was butter smooth, as we have to the right, and you've given us choppy garbage. This is bullshit. This, for me, is something that really pisses me off because before new firmware, you don't have these problems. Now, I took one for the team so that you don't have to. So if you've got 1420, I would maybe consider, I don't know, trying to get rid of it or try to, I don't know. I don't know how you're going to get around it. Don't update your damn TV. Everybody keeps asking me this all the damn time. I cannot stress this enough for you, dude. Stop updating your TV. There is not a such thing as an update. It just does not exist nowadays. Look at how much worse. Look at that movement. And I am playing this over and over again, and I am so angry about it. Because, like, when I first got this TV, and it was on, like, 1310, it didn't have this fucking problem. Like, pardon my French and my aggravation, but you'd be mad too if you paid $2,000 for a television and just an update can really fuck up your motion to this degree. And it's just, there's no other way to say that. There's no need for niceties or politeness when you've paid money. And this is my problem with the AV industry. You know, you buy these TVs that will be discontinued next year, and it's always like around the end of the year, there's some fucking mystical update that destroys your television's motion or limits its brightness. It's always those two fucking things. And all the media can do is completely black out and tell you everything's amazing, there are no problems, all is well and great. But like, here I am, I'm sitting on this damn TV and I'm just so annoyed by looking at how clean and smooth it is on 1082 day one firmware. And then I look over and it's still fucking choppy and juddery. It's that 24p bullshit that everybody is hot in the ass for in the purist world. And I'm sure if you're a purist and if you like Sony motion, this will be right up your alley because this is so much closer to Sony's garbage ass motion now than it ever was out of the gate. And for me, this is where I have a massive damn protest because it's like, how fucking dare you? Like, I had a great television. There was nothing wrong with it. Your update fucked it up as per the damn usual with all these companies. Then it's like, I keep getting to a point where I tell you, like, Like, real talk, day one, if you are happy with your TV, never touch it, never update it. There is not a damn reason to, because 9 times out of 10 they are doing some shit to your TV. They never tell you what they remove when they take features away. And then this happens. I really want you to slow this part down, okay? The digitization is real. Like, she's choppy, she's jittery, she almost looks like a stop motion character. Like, that's how bad it is, and I'm not even joking. Now, full disclosure, it's not like every second that you're watching the television will be absolutely unbearable. As you can see here in this clip, motion is smooth and identical to what we have to the right. But when you get to certain kinds of motion with moving, it's like cloth physics and video games and things like that, you're going to notice way more problems than you ever did have before. And this is how, like, motion becomes a bit of a problem. Like, people like to do these almost what I would call linear tests, where they'll say, okay, I'm testing motion out. And all they'll do is they'll run some stupid program, or they'll do one test pattern. But motion is ever changing. Motion is anything and everything that can move. Hair physics in video games, cloth physics in video games, drifting in movies, passing by chain link fences, passing by buildings, birds flying by, animals running in a stampede, action sequences with particle effects flying off. And good motion has to be able to interpret all of those different kinds of scenarios without falling apart. And unfortunately for us, the Samsung S95B now has more difficulty doing that after 1420. So I think that's the problem. And I've been sitting here torturing myself for hours, just going through all of these various scenarios, trying to really see what has changed, pausing, going frame by frame, analyzing every little thing. And I'm telling you right now, it was better before for motion, and now it's not. Now, that being said, also with the small highlight thing, I feel like what Samsung's direction was with this particular patch, based off of what I've been able to deduce and analyze, is essentially they've opened up shadow detail. So if you had a problem with Black Crush before, it's definitely removed. They fixed that a ton. Shadow detail has been reduced greatly to give you more detail in your shadows. Unfortunately, they do still retain the same, I would say, overall level of peak brightness and SDR. However, they changed the way that luminosity maps on light bulbs and on little tiny bright highlights. So this really kind of becomes a bit awkward feeling, because now you'll notice that things are just dimmer than they were, and it doesn't really feel as good as it did before. And you'll notice that, like even in this scene here, right? Like, I'll run it back, okay? Like, this guy, being held at gunpoint, poor prisoner or whatever, okay? You can definitely see way more luminosity kicking up on the face to the right. And on the left, it's a lot dimmer. Now, some might say that, oh, I prefer like a dimmer picture, it's more comfortable. We're not talking about that. Preferences aside, we're talking about a performance point where it was before and where it no longer can hit. And I think that, for me, is the most disparaging part of this entire ordeal, where I've had the misfortune of gradually watching this television go down and down and down with every firmware update. So it's to the point where it's like, listen, I have said this now effectively pretty much for like a solid 5 years easy. I mean, do not update your TV. I can't say it any clearer. I can't say it in any other tongues. Don't update your TV because of stuff like this. You are watching it change too much. Now, again, it's not like there's not a benefit. And then, of course, now strategically for you as the viewer, you've got to kind of weigh up what you think will be the better option, okay? Is it better for you to get more shadow detail in your movies at the expense of small bright highlights being dimmer and motion looking more choppy and more digitized? That's something only you can answer for yourself. For me, day one, this TV was basically flawless and nothing could beat it. Like, really, truly, it would be very difficult to beat. Now, to be very real with you, as far as colors go, the colors look good. I don't have any problems with the color. It feels like purples were a little bit reduced, and some reds definitely had some problems. It's definitely less saturated, so they've eased off of the saturation. Now, what I've gone ahead and done is use the day one firmware to reference monitor match to the brand new firmware, so my VIP members will be able to see the color improvements and the contrast improvements and fixing what they've done with this firmware. But again, that's something that's going to be very difficult and very hard for a lot of people to be able to enjoy and experience. And even in scenes like this, it's not perfect because I still see more shadow detail, ironically enough, on the older firmware than on the new one, because I've had to make adjustments to account for that just ridiculous level of shadow detail that they've decided to put in. I really don't know what would have possessed them to add that much shadow detail to the point of making it just way too open. So I've had to make some aggressive changes, which of course you can go up and down and change things around, but essentially we got it to a point where they are identical again, and I think that's good. Picture wise, they are identical. You can get to moments where small bright highlights still look great and beautiful, but if you have something to compare it to, this is the most important part of this video, I guess. If you have something to compare it to, you are able to clearly see, like in this scene, what the Samsung is no longer doing in the background. Like the street light, for example, how I told you those small bright highlights, way tighter, way cleaner, where on the S95B rocking the latest firmware to the left, it just looks like it's clipping a little way too much, and there's a little bit more of almost, I wouldn't say blooming, but a haze. It just always has a little bit more haze to it versus tight, isolated lines around the shape of the illumination path. So what I mean by that is like that circular area being completely sectioned off, and you can see like that's clearly where the light bulb goes. And like even in the background, all the little practical lights from the buildings in the background, you can clearly see like, yes, this is an individual sharp light. And I think that's the problem. The lines of the lights have changed. They've gone with more of like a soft lighting approach where it looks more blurry versus hard and stark and isolated and defined, but also softened and gradated at the same time. It's a scale back. There's no other way to word that. It's a scale back. I'm not happy about it. I don't know anybody who would truly be happy about a scale back, but that's basically what this is. Okay, so I want to show you something about the firmware that is still not resolved. If you go into custom, the image breaks. Everything crushes out, the data, all that, it's still not fixed. So this is kind of continuing with the theme here, where it's like, I genuinely don't understand what the hell they possibly could be fucking updating at this point, because I've, in every single goddamn patch that they've put out, talked about this and shown this at length. Clearly they don't give a damn what I think. It's only these like limp dick purists, okay, which again I cannot fucking stand, because they're not fixing the TV, they're ruining it. And it's very clear. We have a clear defect. This shit should have been fixed from day fucking one. It is the same defect that the S95B from day one has. And don't think I'm joking, I'll show you. So here we are, 55-inch Samsung S95B rocking firmware 1082, okay? And bam, the same exact damn defect. The same exact one. Literally, the same. It's the same. And this shit is unacceptable on every fucking level imaginable. And they have yet to fix it. Why? It makes no sense. They're like, bro, like you have no idea how frustrating it is to know that I can't calibrate my TV properly because Samsung decides that all they care about is what little Vincent T.O. says, and they don't give a damn about what real consumers are facing or the real glitches and issues with their problems. It's like at this point, if Vincent doesn't say it, they don't give a damn about it. And I think that for me is like one of the biggest things that's just really unacceptable. So maybe some of you might want to make a decision just because of that alone. So yeah, that pretty much sums up the ordeal here. Again, the Samsung S95B, even with this scale back, now I think again people are going to ask me, even with this scale back, it is still better than the Sony A95K. Looking at it now, looking at the motion is still smoother, the contrast is still more popping, more better, skin tones, Pantones are very beautiful, they look wonderful, okay? However, it's just not as great as it once was. So we're comparing this to Samsung's level. Samsung to Samsung. We're not comparing Sony to Samsung. Sony did drop the ball a little bit harder this year, and I, again, through calibration and adjustment, was able to get it back to where it needed to be. Again, if you are a VIP member, look out for those settings. They will be coming very soon, along with some live TV settings. But that being said, I'd love to hear from you guys in the comment section down below. And as always, don't update your firmware. Stay off of it if you can. If you get the brand new Samsung S95B firmware, like you just bought the Samsung S95B and it ships with this firmware, join for $5, become a member, and get these settings that will fix that crap for you, and you'll be good to go. But that being said, I want to thank you guys so much for watching the #1 brand in honesty, and until the next video, I'll see you guys later.